All right, let's jump into a truly fascinating story. We're going to follow the journey of a journalist named Paul Brunton in his book, A Search in Secret India. It's this incredible spiritual travelogue where he sets out to find the real mystics and sages, the ones hidden away from the modern world.
And this really is the question at the heart of it all. I mean, can you imagine you're a hard-nosed reporter back in the 1930s, your entire world is about facts, evidence, and proof, and then you decide to dive headfirst into a world filled with yogis, so-called miracles, and claims of divine power. It's a massive clash of worldviews, and that's the journey we're on today.
And here he is, Paul Brunton himself. You gotta understand, he wasn't some wide-eyed pilgrim looking for a new faith. Nope, he was an investigator on a mission. His goal was pretty straightforward. Cut through all the legends, the fakes, and the myths to see if there was any actual verifiable truth to the spiritual wonders of India.
So, we begin with the first leg of his journey, the journalist's quest. He's just landed in India, he's got his notebook, he's armed with that classic Western skepticism, but, and this is key, he also has an open mind. He's ready to document whatever he finds, for better or for worse.
And it's so important to get his mindset. This guy was not a gullible tourist. He prided himself on his scientific attitude. His training as a journalist was all about, separating the wheat from the chaff. He wasn't looking to believe. He was looking for proof. Plain and simple. Well, almost immediately his hunt for cold, hard proof is met with things that, they just defy easy explanation. He starts running into these figures who perform incredible feats, challenging his rational worldview right out of the gate.
His first major test doesn't even come from an Indian yogi. It's an Egyptian magician visiting Bombay named Mahmud Bey. This man had a massive reputation for having these extraordinary mental powers, and Brunton, ever the journalist, decides, okay, I'm going to put this guy to the test.
And the test he comes up with is super strict, almost foolproof. Brunton silently thinks of a question: where did I live 4 years ago? He writes it down on a piece of paper, folds it up into a tiny, tight little square, and clutches it in his fist. Mahmud Bey doesn't touch him, doesn't touch the paper. He just closes his eyes, concentrates for a moment, and then calmly speaks the question out loud. But that's not even the craziest part. When Brunton unfolds the paper he's been holding the whole time, the answer is already written on it.
And this is Brunton's own reaction. As a journalist, he just can't deny what he saw with his own 2 eyes. He looked for a trick, for some sleight of hand, but he couldn't find one. The experience leaves him totally baffled, forcing him to admit that something happened that was completely beyond his understanding.
From there, his journey takes him to this man, Meher Baba. His followers genuinely believed he was a new messiah, a savior for the modern world. And one of the most fascinating things about him, for years he hadn't uttered a single word. So Brunton sits with him, and Meher Baba spells out this brand mission letter by letter on an alphabet board. He claims his whole purpose is to give a spiritual push to our materialistic world. He promises that when he finally does break his years of silence, his words will trigger a new global era. He even says he'll perform miracles, but not just for show. His goal is to spiritualize the people of the world.
Okay, so think about it. Brunton has seen mind reading and he's heard prophecies from a self-proclaimed messiah. The marvels are definitely there, but this really important question starts to bubble up in his mind. Are these spectacular powers the same thing as true wisdom? Is this flashy stuff the profound secret he came all this way to find?
And this brings us to a real turning point in his search. He starts to look past the dazzling displays, seeking something quieter, something deeper. And this leads him to a truly pivotal encounter. He manages to get a meeting with one of the most respected spiritual leaders in the entire country, His Holiness Sri Shankara. Now, this wasn't a magician or a would-be messiah. This was the head of a spiritual tradition that was over 1,000 years old. Brunton is hoping that this wise man can finally point him in the right direction. And he gets exactly that. After listening patiently to Brunton's story, Sri Shankara gives him this very simple, direct advice. He tells him, keep meeting holy men, but he gives him one very specific recommendation: a name and a place. The great sage, the Maharshi, who lives on the holy mountain of Arunachal. And just like that, the final destination is set. Brunton's long, winding search all across India now has one single point on the map: this sacred mountain, a place of pilgrimage for centuries, and home to the one sage he was told he absolutely had to find. This is it. This is the climax of the entire journey. Everything, the magicians, the prophecies, the long travels, it has all been leading up to this single moment, to a meeting on this holy hill. So Brunton walks into the hall, And he finally sees him, Ramana Maharshi. And he's expecting, well, who knows what he was expecting at this point? Another grand statement, a miracle? But what he gets is something completely and utterly different.
There's no performance here, no alphabet board, no mind-reading trick. The Maharshi barely even moves. His eyes are just gazing off into the distance. The entire hall is just steeped in this stillness that is so deep, so potent. It feels more active and alive than any speech possibly could.
And in that silence, something finally clicks inside Brunton. That whole list of questions he'd prepared, his reporter's instinct to analyze and doubt everything, it just melts away. He describes his thought-tortured brain finally finding rest. A great peace starts to fill him up, not from a clever answer, but from a silent presence. And this is the whole point, right? This massive pivot. He started his journey looking for all these external things, occult powers, external proof, dramatic prophecies. But what he ended up finding was something entirely internal. Instead of mind reading, he found mental quiet. Instead of proof, he had a personal realization. The ultimate secret wasn't a loud prophecy, it was a potent, powerful silence.
This is the ultimate takeaway from his entire adventure. He discovered that the greatest power wasn't levitation or telepathy or anything like that. It was the deep, unshakable peace that comes from truly knowing yourself. The secret wasn't hiding in some ancient text. It was within him all along, just waiting to be unlocked by the presence of a true sage.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. Brunton traveled thousands of miles, met all these mystics, only to find his answer in a completely silent room. It really makes you wonder, in our own noisy, busy, information-packed lives, what truths are we missing because we're not listening to the silence?